Good morning, guys. Good morning, London Hydro. And thank you, Sharon, for giving me this opportunity. I want to congratulate London Hydro on getting AEDs for their crews and making the investment. Make sure your manpower, your crews, go home every night and at least have the opportunity to. Um, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Matt Collins. I'm a journeyman lineman out of Local 769. I'm currently working out of Local 266 in Phoenix, Arizona. It's a utility local. Working for Salt River Project. Um, on January 27th, 2012, I was involved in an induction accident. I had a contact. Um, we were working on an H structure on a 230 line in a 500 corridor. We had a 500 line just to the north of us, a 115 line just to the south of us. It was a tight corridor. We had heavy winds coming from the north to the south. We knew we had problems with induction in that area, and bad, the ground was just a lousy source of ground. We had to have three ground pole grounds on each pole. Otherwise, the poles would just catch on fire. The ground wasn't enough to dissipate. So we knew we had some hazardous conditions. We knew the situation going into it. We knew what we needed to do. We'd probably done 20 structures over the last week, and all we were doing was changing out the channel braces on the top between the static and the fiber optic. And it was a fairly simple, routine procedure. And it always seems that those are the easy ones, because those are the ones that get you, because you lose focus sometimes. And that's a horrible thing to say, but that's the reality of it. We'd set up on this 8 structure. We'd already done one. We were setting up on the second one for the day. Fairly easy day. We were working out of buckets. We weren't even climbing. This was just a small section that we had bucket access to. The rest we'd done out of our hooks. And we'd put our grounds up, and we grounded from the pole ground to the phase, pole ground to the phase. So we had 2 phases on one pole, 1 phase on the other pole grounded. The channel was the tie between the two, and we were changing out the channel. And we were putting up a steel channel versus the wood channel. And we had it all put up, and the other side had connected. They tied in their pole ground to the channel. So I had 1 phase basically right in front of me, and 2 phases on the pole ground. And all I can think of, because I don't really remember, is I must have put my hand, and by the burns on my fingers, I'm guessing I put my hand on the bolt just to get a lift, to kind of, I'm guessing, so I could see it, or maybe I couldn't reach the wire. I don't really know. After I had my contact, I just got locked up, and I don't really remember it. I don't remember the rest of that day. I really don't remember the next 2 days, bits and pieces here and there. But the crew, they were quick to respond. My pole buddy up in the bucket said, right away, all of a sudden I was quiet, and I was never quiet when we're working. And he asked me a question, and I didn't respond. He asked again, because it looked like I was working, and he wasn't sure whether I was just focused on something or something was wrong. And when I didn't answer him the second time, he knew something was wrong, and he swung the bucket. And when he swung the bucket, that broke my contact, and I just dropped in the bucket. He immediately called out, Matt's gone down, we need to get the AED, call 911. We were a good 30 minutes from the road, out in the middle of the desert in a place called Gold Canyon. For anybody that goes jeeping or does the 4x4 trails, it's a great trail, but for a rescue, it's a pretty crappy situation. paramedics, it took them 45 minutes to find us and get to us. By the time they got to us, they were really vocal on the fact that they thought it was body recovery time. You know, you hear about an electrical contact and you have a 45-minute wait to get to the person. The chances of survival are pretty slim. But because we had the AD and the crew knew what they were doing, and we'd been trained in it over and over every year, we run through a refresher, and you know, these guys were locked in. They knew what they were doing. The majority of the people on this crew have been working together for 13 years, and they were spot on. I was the newest guy to the crew. I'd been there a year, and they made sure I made it home. You know, they got that AED on me. They started CPR right away. You know, the bucket rescue procedure with using the bucket hooks and whatnot, they just yanked me out. I'm a 240-pound guy, and they just yanked me out of the bucket and got me down. You know, adrenaline was running. And the 5 guys, they just did a bang-up job of making sure I got home. They took real good care of me. As soon as the paramedics got there, the first thing they did was call a helicopter. They couldn't believe, one, that I was thrashing and alive, and 2, that that we even had an AED on site. That kind of blew their mind that our company gave us AEDs, and it's a great thing they did. They called in the helicopter, got me out, got me to the burn unit, took care of my injuries, and you know, stabilized me on the way, and made sure that I got to see my wife and my kids again. And as any lineman knows that's ever been involved in an accident or an incident, the phones get going right away. And one of the guys that I'd gone through my apprenticeship with had called my best friend back in Wisconsin. It's also a lineman. We got into the trade together. And Tony, right away, got on the phone and called my wife at work and told her she needed to get home, that I had been hurt. And he didn't know how bad yet, but he was getting on a plane and coming out because he knew I was going to the hospital. And he made his apprentice drive him from Wisconsin to the Minneapolis airport in their line truck, dropped him off. He called his wife on the way and said that he wouldn't be home for a while, and that I had gotten hurt and he was on his way out. And he got to the hospital before I was done with my surgeries from halfway across the country. So this, you know, that says a lot about the brotherhood in this trade, and how tight it is, and how we care for each other. And we have to, because when you're in a remote location, or even just working in a backyard, there's no one else that's going to take care of you. You know, we count on each other to get ourselves down off a pole, should there be a contact or an injury. Fire and rescue, they won't make that rescue. They count on us to get them down, and they'll take it from there. So you have to have all your tools. You have to have, you know, your rubber protection. You got to have your wits, and you need the proper tools. And an AED is a proper tool. And I'm just so proud of London Hydro for taking this step and investing in this tool for their crews. And really, you know, I can't say enough about the importance of maintaining your equipment. You know, treat your AED like you treat your rubber gloves and your sleeves. That is your lifeline. Don't pencil whip the paperwork. Check them daily. Make sure they're checked properly. Check the battery dates. Check the pad dates. Turn it on. Make sure it works. Turn it back off. Secure it. Keep track of it. Keep it in a safe location, easy access, so that in an emergency, everybody knows where it is and can get to it easily. And you know, it's like your burn bag. It's like your first aid kit. You need to know where it is. You need to know how to use it. But when you do, that's giving somebody the opportunity to go home. I mean, it can be a heart attack on the crew, or it can be in a contact. And when your heart goes into defib, the only thing that's going to take it out is an electrical shock. And the AED is the one proven tool that will give that to you. You know, we go through a yearly training on the AED, first aid, CPR. Um, I don't know exactly what your protocol is, but I would imagine it's going to be about the same. Uh, you know, probably an hour, 2 hour introduction class, and then after that, an hour refresher every year, just to make sure everybody's current. And for the linemen and the foremen on the crews, take the time. You know, if you've got 15 minutes of downtime, run through it, run through a scenario, and just make sure everybody knows what they have to do. That's one thing our crew did nonstop. You know, if we were between jobs, then we were rappelling off the towers working on our rope rescue skills. We were practicing and training for our bare hand work. Um, there just was no time not to be training. Uh, you know, if you had downtime, that was the time to train. If we weren't actually working, we should be practicing what we were going to work. And we actually built a couple towers and built some line in our training center between the towers, so that, you know, we had something to practice on. And our company made the investment in safety. And I think it is great that other companies are starting to follow suit now. And I can't stress enough, you know, the value of that AED, and using it as the tool it was meant to be. You know, in our trade, we have a lot of hazards. You know, I always hear people say, you know, your job is dangerous, or I don't know how you do your job. That's a dangerous. It's not dangerous. It's hazardous. And if you have the proper tools and the skill set to negotiate those hazards, you're fine. You know, it's when you don't use them, when you don't use your wits, you don't use your training, or you don't use the proper tool, then it becomes dangerous. So I'm really happy to see you have the proper tools, and I'm hoping none of you have to go through what I went through. But if you do, it's nice to know that AED is there to give you a chance to go home. So congratulations again. I wish you guys a healthy and safe career, and hopefully I'll see you out on a job sometime. All right, guys, congratulations. Thanks again.